Hi, my name is Jordan Thomas, and I'm a senior at Utica Community Schools Center for Science and Industry, and my pathway is engineering with some twists of multimedia. At the end of our junior year, our class was given the task. There were 3 opportunities for us to get our hands dirty with that encompassed our learning at CSI. The 3 opportunities were volunteering, product design, and an internship. I chose to do a product design for my capstone project. The Center for Science and Industry has been a part of my life since I got the acceptance letter back in 2014. Since that moment, I've had a second family. When our class was given this project at the end of our junior year, I came up with many ideas. The ideas ranged from a Mario Kart go-kart to an art gallery. No idea was sticking with me until I came up with the idea of an optical illusion. My creation is an optical illusion that represents the different aspects of CSI life. This school has been such a huge part of my life, and I wanted to give back, not only from myself, but also from a little bit of everyone else. In the center of my optical illusion, there is a CSI. As someone looks closely at it, they will see the individual words that describe CSI. I wrote up an interview and had teachers give this prompt to the students. The prompt was, on a scrap piece of paper, write down a word that you think best describes CSI. Some of the words that I got back in response were creative, innovative, and home. Those words are represented on the CSI. There's a little bit of everyone in my project, and that is giving back to CSI. An optical illusion is something that deceives the eye by appearing other than it is. I started with the simple things that make up CSI: a camera, a gear, a screwdriver, and a paintbrush. Then I dove into what makes up CSI, and it's the people. Each individual has a unique set of skills and thinking process. Everyone has adapted into the CSI thinking mindset, and it makes everyone extraordinary. We're all one family that calls CSI home. To represent this important aspect of CSI in the optical illusion, I created half of a head. The other half of the head is made up of a camera, a gear, a screwdriver, and a paintbrush. A lot has changed since the beginning. When I first proposed my capstone, I was going to do a full-scale model of an optical illusion on school grounds. After seeing when the deadline was with correspondence to Michigan weather, along with the crunching the numbers at how much an 8-foot tall by a 6-foot across sculpture would cost, I decided against it. I got my project reapproved to move my project to a smaller scale and to use different materials to represent the original materials in the full scale. The copper wire represents plywood, and the 3D printed objects represent plaster. Other obstacles presented themselves very quickly as I started to create my capstone. The optical illusion aspect of my project is that it's a head, except half of the head is a face made up of wood and wire, and the other half of the face is everyday objects used at CSI. For my scale model, the wood is wire and the objects are 3D printed. The objects in full scale model will be of chicken wire and plaster. The CSI in the middle represents the brain of all the students and teachers. We all have one mind that operates differently and in sync. As someone first sees the optical illusion, it'll seem like a jumbled mess of wood, and in this case, wires, and the objects. Slowly, as someone walks around the sculpture, will they then realize that it is a face, and everything will then come into focus. The back corner is open so people can walk inside of the sculpture. This way people will be able to see the brain of the person, which is CSI. Written on the CSI is words of what the students and teachers think make up and describe CSI. I wanted to give back to the school that has been so special in my life for the past 4 years. This capstone project represents what CSI is to its students. One of my first obstacles was figuring out how to get the copper wire to stay and what gauge was best for sculpting certain parts. I first tried just twisting the wire together, only to find that the wire still slides back and forth. Then I tried hot glue, and I glued it straight to the floor. After struggling with a mess of hot glue and wires, I asked my teacher what the best possible way to join the wires together would be. He suggested using a soldering iron and solder the wires together. The problem with the soldering iron was it was heating up the solder but not the wires. Finally, I used a butane torch and solder. That took some trial and error before I could get the wires to join together. The wires first have to be heated until the coating is melted off before they can be joined together by the solder. Also, when heating up wires, to not touch the wires or clamps for a few minutes because it is all hot. After the wire structure was done, I needed to create the other half of the face. I knew I wanted the objects to be made out of plaster in the full scale, but not the small scale. At first, I started making the objects out of wire until I remembered I needed them to look like plaster. I used polymer clay. It was very hard to sculpt and it didn't take shape very easily. I then turned to SolidWorks and had my objects 3D printed off of my teacher's printer. This project will be huge at full scale. It'll stand at 8 feet tall with a diameter of 5 feet to 6 feet. In a small scale, the scale is 1 inch to 1 foot. It had to be big enough for people to be able to walk into it. Since the project is meant to go outside, I have the ground represented. It is in an acrylic box that is 8 inch by 8 inch by 6 inch. Dirt was originally going to fill the box until I realized that the dirt was going to create moisture, and with it being enclosed, it would eventually turn into mold. In return, I used river rock topsoil and filled the whole box up. The sudden fear of the box bursting open was a reoccurring thought. In the center of the box is a 7 inch by 7 inch by 5 inch piece of foam. It makes the box lighter and seem more full. For the structure of the head, I used 16 gauge wire. To have the form of the head, I wrapped wire around a styrofoam mannequin head. There is minimal bracing because the wire is attached to a metal hoop. The metal hoop acts as the cement posts that would act as anchors to the ground. As for the bracing above, the wires crisscross each other at the top to add stability, and for the head to keep its shape. The facial features are made of 20 to 24 gauge wire. This type of wire was used to create details that the thicker wire could not. This wire was too thin to be soldered on. The eye and the eyebrow are wrapped very strongly onto the head. The nose and the mouth were soldered on because 18 gauge wire was used. To cover up the solder, I wrapped the joints with wire. My goal for this project was to create a place for people to go and enjoy art, but also to reflect and come up with ideas for their own projects. It encompasses all of what CSI is: a community, home, lifestyle. It is all of us, and I wanted to create something that represented all aspects. This optical illusion would be a place for students and faculty to go and clear their heads to new ideas. It is to help people and to be a place to remember everyone who has attended CSI. The objects are left blank because every graduating class will sign their name and their year. The optical illusion represents CSI. My capstone is me leaving an important mark on the school that all students call home. My design process for this project was to give back to CSI in a representative way. All in all, the project had moments of disaster and moments of pure happiness. It was a learning process. I can now say I can successfully solder 2 wires together with a blowtorch. Not many people can say that.